Hello, 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 everybody, ladies and gentlemen, mayors and not mayors. Welcome to Cities Skylines 2. Welcome to Dead Men Streaming. I am Josh. I am your host for the evening. I'm your host for every evening on Dead Men Streaming because this is kind of my channel. It's kind of what I do. It is good to see you out here tonight. Now, before we begin, I want to ask you guys to do me a tremendous favor and give me a follow. If you would possibly, yes, please, possibly, be so kind. If you like what I do, if you like tuning into me, then hey, give me some love, give me a follow. Trying to get to 50 followers so I can get affiliates, so I can start doing some charity streams with some amazing people that I work with every year. Now, with all of that said, let's get down to business, shall we? We've got a good bit of work to do on the city today, and I'd like to go ahead, hop in, get started as soon as I make sure that I'm alive, that I've got my chat room open, and looks like we're good. Finally got my webcam working again. We're not even going to ask what went wrong because it was stupid. Now, fair warning, I've actually got a really splitting headache today. I'm going to thank that headache to the makers of WordPress, but I'm also going to thank water that I'm going to be drinking a lot of throughout the stream, not because of you, it's strictly because of me. All right, now let me take a quick reminder, give you guys a quick reminder where we were last time. Yesterday, we built the start of a major spread out education campus. We put in a new city elementary over here that's already filled at 2,000 students. We put in a new city high school over here, which is halfway full. We added some amenities, including a soccer field, a very large parking lot, and, honest, straight up, it's not. The swan dive on the concrete has hurt my head. And my head does still hurt from that I did about a month ago. Most of my personal website is based on building in columns, so I can have, different books on one page and then text underneath them. And a new theme that I downloaded and uploaded and everything, for whatever reason, doesn't know how to text wrap. And it is way off of this. But Ryoko, it is good to see you. Hey, how you doing, dear? All right, and if you guys see me looking off to the side over here every time I start talking to somebody, it's because that's where my phone is, so I can see chat. All right. Anyways, as I was saying, we started building an education complex. School, high school, soccer field, parking lot. We put in a little bit of extra buildings over here, including some of our new high-density commercial. We dropped some of those over here as well to fit in. And the way that this game does high-density commercial is so unlike anything that I'm used to in person. I live in a small suburban town. When we do high-density commercial, we put a mall down somewhere. When we do high-density commercial, we put a shopping plaza somewhere with one giant parking lot and 5 or 6 buildings, of moderate size light up against it. This, which I'm told is city accurate, we get buildings with multiple floors, and it confounds me. But it's a building. It's Skylines, and this is how it works. And my understanding is this is how it works in the real world in places that aren't West Virginia. In short, though, here's the major difference between high-density commercial and low-density. If you look at this, a level 1 building, in this particular case, has 48 employees. This level 1 building has 81 employees, and over here, 63. This smaller one only has 9, but this taller one has 11. Let's compare those, and those are all level 1 buildings, to this one over here, which is a level 3 low-density commercial. It's only got 8. So not only are we looking at a difference between heights, we're also looking at employee differences. When you start building large apartment complexes, like these at 253 Daffodil Street, that's got 194 residents and 84 households. Or these low rent houses, which have 288 households and an interesting number of residents, explains why people keep dying over there, then you're going to need, more larger places for them to work. And when you compare that to, say, some of the factories, these factories do pack in a lot of people. There's no question about that. Um, which is why when we start, we only do like a couple of industrial areas and then just a slew of low density residential. And we have the same thing over here. Look at this, 12 households in this medium density row house, or one household in this one, or low, this low density residential. It's a numbers game. So you get height, you get, you know, amounts and variations and all that fun stuff. Sort of lost the plot of what I was saying. Sorry, I zoned out for a second. All right. The other thing that we did yesterday was we did install a small crematorium over here that is handling some of our death care needs right now. And we're going to be expanding on the concept of death care in a little bit, but first, the very last thing we did last night was buy up additional tiles coming over here closer to the river where we want to do a whole lot of work. We are now finally getting into challenging territory to build on and work with. We've got hills. Hills mean slopes, hills mean things like these concrete retaining walls, and these annoying little graphical glitches where you can see the sea underneath the road, which is not how it's supposed to be. But the reason why we're expanding down this way is over here we have our very first college. And colleges are great. We upgraded it, we put a couple of dorms, we added a sports field behind it. We're going to be putting in some very beautiful row houses around here shortly. We could go ahead and do that now, but I do want to get our university up off the ground. Universities provide the final level of education for your cities, and they come in three typical flavors. You've got your standard university, building about this size with a really big courtyard that you can attach to it. Then there's also the technical university and the the medical university. I'll figure out what words are shortly, I promise. These two buildings are unlocked under the progression nodes. If you happen to go under education, and you'll see that they're 2 points and 2 points. You may have noticed when I moused over them that they do come with additional bonuses. Not only do they teach your population, they also increase your industrial efficiency, which makes more money for you, your office efficiency, in the case of the technical university, and then in your medical university, makes people healthier, makes the hospitals work better by 10%, and 25% recovery failures citywide, which in theory, I'm assuming, makes your people live longer, as how I configure that. Alright, ignore me. I'm going to slip off my ring really quick. My hand's getting a little swollen and sweaty. Ew, that just sounded terrible. Alright, we can't afford to build the university yet, but that doesn't mean that we can't afford to do some layout preparation for it, because I know that it's going to go right over here, and honestly right about here is where I want it. And I think what I'm going to do is to make sure that our road next to our school there comes straight down, and that's going to give us our basis. This is what to start our grid down in this direction. Okay, so we got a 2-lane road here, slipping down, keeping it at 90 degree. One thing about these maps with the flatter surfaces, as opposed to some of the more complex maps or complex areas, this lends itself to grid work very easily. For myself, I am a guy who just likes to keep things as gridded as possible, keep things as 90 degrees as possible. Your mileage may vary. When I'm doing maps that have a lot of hills and valleys and things of that nature, though, you'll see me using the continuous road tool a lot, just trying to make things mesh up. Okay, so we've extended our major 8-lane road down all the way. We've got a 2-lane starting over here. We don't really have a need yet to plug in, or wait, can we? Yeah. Normally, I wouldn't do what I'm about to do. I never, ever like to have intersections of... Oh, are you kidding me? You're not. That is not 90 right there? Well, that's... I mean, it's 90, but it's overlapping the city limits. How insanely rude. Okay. Normally, what I was saying though is normally I will never just cross a rail track or a subway track or anything like that. It's dangerous as far as I'm concerned. It's a health hazard. I live next to a couple of railroad crossings in real life. I don't like them and don't want to do them. But here's what I'm going to do. Because that 6 lane is outside of the city for some stupid reason, I am going to make sure that I have a 2-lane road there even. Oh, it's because of that intersection with the rail line. That'll do it. Or maybe I'm off by a hair percent or somewhere. Either way, I just wanted to make sure that no matter what I did with this 2-lane right here, we keep it aligned on the same 180 degrees as we have that 6 lane there. And then when we buy this tile, which we don't need to do right now, then I'll upgrade it to 6. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a look thing. So I do that, and then just double checking. That'll all line up just fine. Won't have to move anything, like we did last episode. Alright. Keep that aligned. We are good. Okay. Grid. Yay, grid. Okay. Now, looking up over here, is there anything we can do about this hillside right now? Anything that's going to make this look a little bit better as we wait for money? And I don't think so. I think this is just going to be what it is. Where's my phone? No, show me my chat window. Why would you do that? There we go. No, I wasn't trying to ignore you. It's just my phone was like, hey, we're just going to, go dark and not show anything. Yeah, no, we'll be building an overpass and an underpass on that. Right now, this rail line is not getting any use whatsoever. It will be soon. But as you can see, it just comes down over here to the river and nothing happens. I love building trains. A good friend of mine several years ago loved trains, loved doing train sets. He was big into them. And unfortunately, he passed away during the pandemic. And every time I start a city in Cities Skylines, I always try to put a big focus on trains. And it's my way of saying, hey, big guy, I miss you, I love you, and I wish you were here. Trains are also expensive, they're a pain in the ass, and there's a couple of things that handle with trains in this game that are not the coolest. We'll get into those once we start setting up all of our mass transit. Okay. Alright, got that 2-lane over there. And we do have a roundabout right there. Let's connect it over. That is a 4-lane, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4-lane. 4-lane out of the roundabout, coming over here. And it's so weird to me to see how busy roads get when you just connect certain parts that have nothing to do with each other. I think there's a tornado. I'm hearing something in the background. This game and the tornadoes, I swear. Okay. We can also go ahead and I think we did weird stuff with this particular road. So let's figure out where our node is. Our node is in a weird spot. Okay, we're good. Go ahead and bring this down the rest of the way. Just doing a little bit of setup and a little bit of pre-planning. That'll make our lives a lot easier in the near future. And everywhere we go on this 8-lane thing, I do want to have us... Well, apparently not everywhere. Apparently that was a late thought. Alright, and we're deleting that. We're just leaving it as is. Okay. So, we are... what? 500,000 short on this, and everything we're going to do in the near future is going to cost us a significant amount of money. There's one more tweak that I can make over here, that I'll go ahead and do just for guidelines sakes, and it's the path trick. We're going to run a path right up there, and I'm going to run a what would look good in front of a university? Probably another 4-lane angled parking road. Let's go ahead and get one of those, chop it right next to that path so we keep the path. Now as we approach this hillside, I'm going to look and see. Want to delete a little bit of that curve right there. So force a new node, delete the other segment, we're good. This hill is going to be a little problematic to develop on. As you can see, it's a hill. It's a hill in a stair step space, and it looks like it's ultimately designed to have a bridge run across. In fact, I would say that's probably what the developers would really want me to do. I've built on this map before, and in previous incarnations, what I did was I took probably this road would be, or this road equivalent, and just ran it all the way through, from one end to the other. And I like to think that that wasn't the worst idea possible. Now, the good news is we can go ahead and do the prep work for that while we wait for the game to do game things. So let's take our road tool, make sure that we are upgrading on the right side so we're not overlapping any buildings. It is going to change the zoning squares a little bit because this game is weird. Can't do anything about the weirdness of the game. And then for my sense of mind, I'm just going to go ahead and start a tunnel that's going to go absolutely nowhere. And it's going to look like something from Wile E. Coyotes. Okay. Hey, Ryoko, the last thing I saw you say on my chat is that I can ignore you. I'm not ignoring you, but I just want to make sure that my chat is updating correctly. And of course, by the way, ladies and gents, if you happen to catch this on YouTube when I upload it in the near future, and you see all this, I do hope you see my chat. Otherwise, I'll be doing another city all over again. I'm not saying that out loud, Ryoko. I am not. I'm not going to say that out loud. No, just... Nope. Certain statements can be used against me in a court of almost everything. Alright. Now that I've confirmed that my chat's still working, let's take a look about how we can... we're going to need to adjust that path a little lower. By the way, you may notice that I'm already starting to lag a little bit. This game is heavy processor heavy and heavy video card heavy. So while the other games that I stream are not as bad as Fallout 76 and Dungeons 4, my focus has been on this, I freely admit, because I'm addicted to this game. I don't know how big we can get this city before I'm going to have to say, hey, that's it, thanks for tuning in to this particular build, before it goes straight to YouTube. So we're going to keep building on this as long as we can, as long as we possibly can over here on Twitch. So I do hope you love it so far, but I do think at a certain point my game's going to be like, no, sir, no, we ain't doing this. Okay, speaking of ain't doing this, let's get rid of a couple of these unnecessary crosswalks. Just because F people, that's why. Okay, I think we're good there. Let's get that 6-lane connected right there, where it needs to be. Let's get back out of the underground before we do that. Okay. And we can delete that unnecessary crosswalk by deleting that unnecessary path. We are good. Okay. Now, there's one more thing that we can do really quick while we wait for money, so I'm not taking out a loan immediately. I forgot to put down mailboxes. you can see where the streets are red that shows where there's poor mail coverage once you bring up the mail window. And I don't want that because people will complain aggressively if they don't get their mail. I'm one of them. And so another one over there by our soccer field. And unfortunately, you may notice that our mail service availability is dropping like a rock. So we are going to need to invest in a post office, probably sooner rather than later. I just don't want to spend the money right this second. However, while we're waiting, I am ignoring this whole area. I don't want to put anything in there that may give me a headache in a little bit. Over here on this particular area down here, though, we can go ahead and put in some development, and we can do the same thing up over here. Let's start with one of my favorite new buildings that have come out in the last couple of months. This would be French medium density housing, and this, or medium density row housing. And like the other builds, we're going to make sure we get this to line up exactly the way we want it to by playing around a little bit and forcing this everything to shape the way we want it to. So we've done it on that side, medium density row housing, filling in, buildings are building. Delete path, delete path. We'll do the same thing on this side. Buildings are now building. I want these all to be the same length, so we'll we'll refuse to approve building plans for those. I'll fill in that hole too. Okay, so far so good. We've got ones over there we don't like. Okay, filled in, delete that, put a new path here, force our zoning, go back over, set it in, delete, set it in, we're good. It looks like we've got room to connect the existing path I put in with the road, but I just want it to merge to the node. I don't want it to connect fully, because if it connects fully, we get a stoplight, we get all that other stuff. So let's just press it up against. It'll still work, it just won't force an intersection. And over here, because I know how these buildings come in, we'll do that. And in a few seconds, we're going to get these really beautiful, really classy, white-roofed, wall-to-wall homes installed that are going to be flush up against each other. They're going to look wonderful as they evolve up all the way to level 5. And you're going to be able to see that they look so much like what you would expect dorm housing to look like that you'll never want to use anything else, or at least I don't want to use anything else. Whenever I zone residential near a college or university in this game, I always make sure I'm doing it this way. It just really makes it super lifelike to me. Okay. Let's put on a roundabout here. It won't get a lot of use once everybody moves in, but it's still going to be kind of important. Okay. Now this goes up and over a hill, so we're going to be sort of limited on what we can build on this direction, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with more dormitory style buildings. So once more, we make the necessary adjustments, and I'm actually going to cut off that road to allow those to grow out bigger. I don't want to zone all, whoops, what did I just do? I goofed. I don't want to zone all of that, so let's go right, drag that out to there, fix our sizes, fix our layout, zip. Okay, same trick this side, keep it nice and even. Ah, interesting news about a local bar just popped up on my messenger. Wow, there's a good reason I don't go to that place. And to keep from getting sued, I'm not going to say what place. Okay. Let's see, I'm not... Oh, that doesn't look like it's super right. We're going to see which way buildings zone on this particular lot. Anybody taking bets that they go the wrong direction? They went the wrong direction. So we'll dezone that whole square. Dezoned. Sorry about your luck. Pathway it. And then back to filling it all in. Filling it in, filling it in. Deleting. Not going to fill in. Okay. Get these the right length. Good. Uniformity for the win. Now that those are the right length, we know that these should be the right length. Except for those that are doing that literally just to be stubborn. Pausing, deleting, and getting the small fry too. Fixing. Fixing. Correcting the ones that aren't the right size. Let's keep zoning in that size. There we go. Little zoning hitch. You too. Thank you. And you. And you're good. Yay, finally. Alright. So let's wrap up this section right here, and we're going to build out all the way to the hillside. Okay. Yeah, I just commented. I glanced at it really quick, and yeah, that's a thing that's happening in the local area that I cannot talk about on stream because lawsuits. They make my mouth shut up. Okay. Now the goal is to try to get this little bit of a path over here in a way that's not going to interrupt all of the building developments. Not 100% sure we're going to pull it off, but we are going to do our best. We did it. Okay. Adjusting. Now I'm going to see if I can't upgrade that without overwriting everything. Only if I am a super careful streamer. And it did it anyways. Oh, it's going to nuke those couple buildings too for some reason. Why? Alright, well, I don't want to create more of a headache for myself than I absolutely have to, so let's just revert that. We'll go with live with a small path. It'll be okay. Except for that house, which is forever screwed. Okay. And I definitely don't want housing back here. What are you doing? Opportunistic? I'm not going to fault you, but opportunistic? Huh. Alright. Dezoning those as well. Because, as usual, we'll run some parks and some paths and some other stuff back through there. Okay. Must have been another one forming right there. That's okay. Alright, and then No, no zoning squares became available, unfortunately. I'm wondering though, well, no, they're not up against that road. Never mind. I had a thought. It was bad. It didn't work. Alright. Let's look over into our parks and try to get our... We can actually do a whole bunch of wide pocket parks here. It appears. A little bit of an unnecessary expense, but it's going to add a little something over here for all these college students. And same thing this side. It is intent on zoning right there, isn't it? Ooh, I said no, no housey. Back to the wide pocket park. And then filling the rest of this in, I'm just, for the sake of keeping this simple, let's get some London pines. Let's remember to use our line tool before we set those down, shall we? So we go over here under decorations, we go to London pine, we make sure it's adult, we go into line. And it's telling me there's not enough room. Okay, so we'll look, no, it is not a crappy dive bar. And I think we'll just jump off of that subject entirely. So let's... Ironically, there's a London pine right exactly where we wanted to build that, and it wouldn't let me finish that line. Okay, there we go. And then right here as well. It's like it keeps butting up against a bush or something right there. So many things I could say. Okay, we've got a little bit of extra open space back here too. And we're just going to leave that as it is. I'm not going to mess with that right now. But look at this. So now look at all of these gorgeous... I see that comment. Look at all of these gorgeous French style row houses right around our college, putting in a lot of weird lighting graphical glitches. We've got all these lovely little housing developments right here, and as these grow, these will turn into something pretty magnificent. However, with this massive influx of houses, we're going to have a demand for schooling that we really just aren't capable of meeting. So once more, we'll go over here to our schools, but instead of using the city school, I'm going to take a quick glance, and we'll go ahead and drop in a... Ooh, these are $125 each. Oh. At least one French elementary school. It can be upgraded slightly with a little bit of stuff in the back. So send your kids off to elementary school and then they go straight from there to college. What can I say? And that'll help absorb some of this a little bit. As far as affordable childcare goes, not something in this game. It was a thing in the previous game, but they didn't decide to include it in CS2. So no children's services under the healthcare tab. F them kids? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's not something I have any control. I can't build daycares. If I could, I would, but I can't, so tough luck. Best I can do is a welfare office, which sounds so terrible when I say it that way. It really, genuinely, absolutely sounds atrocious. Alright, somehow we got our speed bumped down to 2 instead of 3. We almost have enough money for our school that we want to build, our university. Come on, sitting here. I'm going to take a drink while we wait for it. Okay, we now have over 150,000. We can now build this building. And I am going to hope so much that I'm putting this building in the right spot. Alright, I'm going to take one more quick look at our geography really fast. Just any of the road tools will do that. Now there is a slope here, so when I put this down, it's gonna look weird a little bit. We're gonna have to make some landscaping adjustments. Nothing I can do about that until after I see how much space exactly it's going to take up. I can see where the height map changes right there. If you can look in close behind the university, you can see those lines. I'm trying not to go too far up that mountain because we're going to be building off a little bit to the side. So ultimately, this isn't going to be lined up exactly with Lilac Street. I don't think. Well, maybe it will. All right, 3, 2, 1. Here's to higher education and bad geometry. Okay, we now have our very first university in the city, so all of our residents' needs can be met in terms of education. And the other education buildings really aren't necessary. You don't have to have a medical college. You don't have to have a technical college. They do improve your city, but do they fill a need for your citizens that this building doesn't fill? No, they don't. It doesn't do anything more than tweak the back end way of how the game is how the game is running its own algorithms. So for right now, this is what we need. Now this comes with a couple of mods that we can buy for it, and we will. At $375,000, we make all of those parkland spots over there disappear for an extension wing that will add an additional 2,500 student capacity to the building. We can also build on the university library, which is attached to the building, or at the very least is within this blue sphere of influence over here. Sadly, we're not going to be able to stick it right over here, as close to there as I would like, because it says distance is too long. If we stick it right here, it's going to annihilate a hill. Chances are we're going to be dropping it right about here, or maybe I'll try to... If I stick it here, we have an overlapping road issue. We can make a tiny adjustment. I'm trying to remember if we can build one or two of these. I think that we can build multiples of these. Let me test something really quick while I'm over here, but I don't know if this is actually going to work. Nobody's driving on this road right now, so who cares? Alright. I'm going to go to our road upgrade tool, and then it's important in this case we turn off all snapping. Turning off all snapping lets you move stuff in a big way without having to rebuild it. It just shifts the nodes and a few other things around. So let's do that. Go back to our college. Click this. Even though we can't build it yet, we're going to do our best. Distance too long. It is not going to let me put it all the way down here. However, I really like the idea of having the college flanked by 2 libraries as you approach it. I like it so much that we're going to remap our road network just a little bit, starting with fixing that. And because I don't trust my own judgment when it comes to 90-degree angles, we're just going to go ahead and do that extension. So we can delete some of these roads without causing a huge headache, theoretically. Then we just need to wait on money. Putting that down, though, was supposed to eat up some money. Yeah. Now, there's one more other thing on this. And yes, absolutely, the non-Euclidean geometry. Please don't ask me to say that 3 times fast. This is a thing that usually takes up the most space for university. It is the University Park, which is what it is. It's a giant park. And typically, it would go, for me, when I put them together, I would either be slotting them off to the sides or directly in front. If I put it directly in front, we're going to have an even bigger road headache than what we're about to have, thanks to some of my planning. It's going to go in the back, behind the college, and the good news is, for the students, they're going to have a great view down towards the river as they go to college, to remember they shouldn't live in a van down by the, the river. Okay. So that's set. That costs a little bit of money. Now we just wait a little longer to get our cash up so we can build a library. But by and large, our education concerns for the moment have been resolved. We have barely enough elementary schools. We have enough high school, more than enough college, and now our kids can go to university. The reason that I wanted to put in the university before we start looking at some of the other zoning types we've had come available in the last couple of levels is the big thing that is going to start making us the most money will be high density office buildings. When we put those down, their workplaces are going to complain out the backside if they don't have students who are very well educated. So in order to start making money on multimedia, electronics, and other businesses that we want to have move into our city because they generate no pollution, then we have to have our education departments set up really well and really strong. And I'm not putting down high density residential until I can put down high density office. So we're almost there. We've got a few more expenses to make, but this is going to start paying off dividends for us in a hurry. So bear with me. And look at that. Just look at that. Look at the fact that that is off by a square from that intersection. I'm going to look and see how much it costs to move it. $349,000 to adjust that. Boy, that's going to annoy me later. It really is. It really is. Can I adjust that road? Nope, that's our critical road right there that I cannot adjust. Oh, I believe there's a Johnny Cash song titled this. Something about I hurt myself today. Well, we can adjust it slightly, I think. Let me take a look. So if I go for 6-lane, turn off snapping, size that up, that's what, a square? Half a square? Half a square it is. Then honestly, I'm just going to delete all of that and rerun that road from this node on to make sure that I'm keeping it straight. And listen, I'm gonna take a shot at myself for a minute. I'm incredibly anal about right angles and having things ordered a very specific way. You do not have to be this anal. Adjusting that road to perfectly match up with that intersection right there has absolutely zero, and I mean zero, impact on the gameplay. This is me being a picky bitch. It's really all there is to it. Okay, so we've adjusted that because I would lose my mind otherwise. We'll reconnect this. Well, we don't want to connect that 4-lane road yet, and we now finally have enough money for our university library. And what this does, is just going to increase the chance that they're going to graduate, and it really doesn't make any difference because honestly, we're already at a 4% dropout rate. It's hard to get better than 4% on a fail rate. I would love a 4% fail rate with anything I do in my life, any of my projects. If you told me that only 4% of the books I wrote would be fails, I would be writing every day for 10 hours a day. So, just keeping that in mind. If you don't want to invest the money in this thing, don't build it. You know, take a close look at what your city requires, what your city might need, what your phone notifications are. Don't care about that. Make sure you put your phone back on mute, and then remember to take it off of mute after you get done streaming so you don't inadvertently ignore your girlfriend. From what I've been told, they don't like that. Okay. So that 4-lane road is, we're just gonna have some fun with it. We're just gonna make that a cute little neighborhood, and we're gonna go ahead and build the same building over here on this side once we get another 250,000 we can spare. I'm just not gonna do any more additional development down this way. But Josh, what about the people? Where are the people gonna live? Well, like what we did up here with these French medium density row houses, I'm going to go ahead and slide a few of those down here too and get them lined up more or less facing the right way. Not as many of them because we do want to come through and do some additional development here later. Not right this minute, so later. And we'll complete the dorms later. The important thing, without question, was making sure that we got this building built, because it takes time for your sins takes times. Yeah, I ignored my girlfriend and survived. I'm lucky to be here with you tonight. I really am. I'm grateful she hasn't, popped onto stream and seen me without my ring on, because she would really kick my booty for that one. But I hope she understands that my finger was swelling and it was making it hard to type. So if you see this later, sweetie. All right. We can go ahead and extend that right there. Get those houses going. Oh, those houses went in the wrong direction. Yep, those houses are all going in the wrong direction. We'll fix that. Come on, build correctly. Build the way I want you to build. Seriously, why aren't they building right there? I don't know. Just gonna delete that and try again, I guess? Huh. Alright, no idea. Okay, so we're just gonna let... Ooh, I missed a couple of short buildings. No. And no. There you go. Good buildings. There is something glitchy going on here, and I don't know what. So instead of medium density residential, we're going to go ahead and put in some high density commercial right there to fill in that square. Same thing over here. You likely wouldn't necessarily have a giant multi-story multimedia business popping in right next to university. More likely what you would have would be something like these light residential buildings of various sizes. You know, people popping in to grab a drink, to go to the gas station, to do whatever, you know, near the row houses, near the dormitories and things of that nature. So we're going to throw in a few of those too. We're just going to see how this pops up. And something else that you would likely see near a university would be my assumption, from the universities that I've seen in my life, would also be a handful of, you know, light residential office buildings. You know, lawyers and things of that nature. And we'll slip them in over here along these corners just to show that we care. Okay. Alright. Oh, and hey, we've got enough money that I can go ahead and screw around over here, just so I don't forget to do it later. And there's our second building. Second library right there. We're good. We'll finish up the zoning. Okay. We're golden. As far as this is concerned, we are done. Once I buy up this tile and we get exposure to the riverfront over here, perfect. Once I unlock tourist traps, we'll put something big up here that's going to draw eyes and attention and all that other fun stuff. We're just about ready to make our investments into high-density residential, high-density commercial on a large scale, and high-density office. There are two things that I really want to do before we get that direction, though. And one of them has to do with a decision we made very early on in the game. When we first started, this highway came in and pretty much terminated exactly like this. And at the time, it was okay. But it wasn't really a big service accessible thing for us. Then, of course, we bought those extra tiles, we put in this massive interchange over here, and connected our highway down here. Now, I don't intend to buy these two tiles and hook up our highway down here yet. It's going to have to be done sooner rather than later, now that we've bought, fixed up a lot of our other waste management and healthcare management and education problems. Extending the highway system is going to be a big deal. We also haven't done anything for mass transit. No buses, no taxis, no trains, no planes, no automobiles. Plenty of automobiles, but that's that's an old movie joke for you people that were born in the 80s. But every time we make any development, this intersection right here, much as I love it, becomes a nightmare. And realistically, it should, because this is where all of these industrial buildings are dumping their goods. They're processing stuff, making stuff, then driving them straight down over here into our main area, maybe collecting from the farms, maybe going off to our commercial, or maybe just people going to work. And it's created a traffic bottleneck that's going to only get worse the moment we start bringing in a few thousand people at a time with our high-density buildings. We do have a solution to that, and that solution is going to take us a little bit of time and a lot of bit of redesigning. So let's save our game so we don't lose anything in case I make a big mistake and get super angry. Then we're going to go ahead and break our road network a little bit. Right through here, these buildings are about to have a tremendously terrible day. We've got missing buildings down here too. Game must be glitching because these should have all filled in. I wonder why they didn't. These were some of the buildings. Oh, they filled in. They just... we're missing... Huh. Okay, we've got a strange gap there. That would be perfect for a road path. Let me put one in. Since nothing else is happening right there. Just for the sake of aesthetics and for pedestrian management. This road is a 2-lane road with sidewalks, and honestly it connects right up to a 4-lane road that goes towards our major collectors, or our major artery. So what we're going to do here is I am going to eminent domain the shit out of this whole section. I was going to get rid of a few of these buildings, for which I'm sorry, but we need to make the upgrade. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a 2-lane, as a 4-lane, but this 2-lane here, words. We're going to do this. No, we are not doing congestion tolls. Listen, I'm a city planner. I am not that unethical. All right. But as you can see, this is going to kick people out. This is going to delete zoning, and it's going to create a headache a little bit. Cities grow, cities change, cities are built, cities have to adapt to their needs. Our needs right now, it's going to be a better traffic pattern right through here. And that's going to come at the cost of our citizens' happiness. It's going to cause some brief interruptions, and, you know, may even make some people move out. But they're going to have to deal with it because I need to deal with something else. The good news is we're making so much money, we're already back over 314,000. So here is what my plan is. Bedford Street is going bye-bye as we know it. Let me save again, because this is going to take some significant remapping here. I wish the game hadn't just gone to midnight, but that's life. Darkness never comes when you're ready for it. Alright, so say goodbye to that intersection, say goodbye to that highway, say goodbye to that roadway, say goodbye to that node which broke, say goodbye to Bedford Street. It's all going away. What we're going to replace it with, actually, you know what, say goodbye to that on-ramp too. We're leaving that one little bit of road right there. I'm going to see which of these is going to fit better. It looks like I was hoping I could wedge in two of these, and I don't think the game is going to let me, and I think that's super unfortunate. Let me try. This is where you're going to see me get a little weird and see the game start to get strangely congested. We're taking off geometry snapping, but I'm going to try my best to make sure that this is lined up with the existing roadway networks as much as I possibly can. And I think that's as even as I can make it. Let's find out, or find out if I'm going to have to delete an entire road section. 6 lane to 6 lane. 91 degrees. 90. Didn't connect. This game, I'm telling you guys. So we go here, connect, 90. Alright, node rebuilt. Node rebuilt. Single point interchanges, as a matter of road physics, are built on the simple concept that if you have traffic going through, they don't need to be involved in the traffic intersections at all. So, traffic, theoretically, will be merging up onto this center path and going out this direction. Then, traffic that wants to come south is going to get on one of these turns, cut through this way, in a bizarre dance in the middle, which gives me anxiety to look at. I'm assuming you'd know what to do if you approached it as you were driving. Good luck to you, is all I'm going to say about that. And here's the thing, we're not just going to do one, because that would be simple. I'm going to go ahead and go for the overkill. We are going to drop down 2 SPIs in a row right over here. This is really going to change the way that our roadway network interfaces and a lot of how it's going to work. But we're going to connect it right here. It's going to go up this hill. It's going to look weird. We're going to be deleting it and running it underground some. But this game doesn't make it that easy. So this is going to take some pretty significant work. So I'm going to have to ask that you bear with me as I delete huge chunks of road and go ahead and add a little guideline right here. We're going to be upgrading all of these highway segments to 4-lane at the worst right over here. So just ignore how I'm doing the setup right now. First, I already saw that I need a very small segment. I just want to make sure that we are lined up. So we'll drop that. Then we'll get our second SPI. Then I want to make sure that it is going to line up with our 8-lane road down here, because this is going to be a foundational part of our city. This is going to be handling so much traffic if everything goes right. If. Okay? So now I'm visually checking this. We have snapping turned off, and for whatever reason it doesn't show guidelines. Okay. And I'm trying my best to ignore where it says slope too steep up there, because that will block you from placing it. This looks about as even's going to get for me. Setting it down. We're going to ignore this entire mess right here exists. I don't care about it. I am for a moment just to get rid of that error line, going to set a single connection right there so I don't see that error glaring at me. The rest of this we're completely ignoring for the purposes of getting all this hooked back up. Yeah, and this is a 6-lane right here. It's not an 8-lane coming out of this. So when we upgrade it to mesh up with our existing 8-lane structure, it's not going to be perfect. And there's truthfully not a whole lot I can do about it. What I can do, I think, though, is instead of trying to upgrade it and make it mesh, is to take our 6 and see what the game does. See, the game is intent on pushing it in other directions. So we're going to turn off snapping. We're going to turn on snap to 90 degrees. And actually, one more thing, Ryoko, you can't actually put toll roads in this game. You could in the last one, but not in this one. They didn't put that functionality in here either. They did upgrade CS2 over CS1. They really did. But in some ways, they didn't. And it's weird the things that they didn't include too. It's like the only thing I can think of is that they fully intended to have massive DLC right out of the box, but they're behind by a year on a lot of it. So take that for what you will. Okay. So we've reconnected what, Hemlock Street? Hemlock Street. We've got our 2 SPIs down. We're going to go ahead and connect these 2 SPIs together as close as we can. Fix that directional pathing. Yeah, when I'm going to be honest with you, if I had thought about doing streaming a year ago when this came out, I wouldn't have. I don't know how the greats like City Planner or Imperture or Biffa handled this game at launch, because I played it for like 3 weeks, maximized everything I could out of the system on a building level, and was so thoroughly disappointed that I quit playing for about 6 months. Very disappointed, but they've done a lot of good work. And our next DLC drop is on the 27th. So I'm going to be going with that. Yeah, and honestly, it really was lacking so much that it was just bad. Okay, so right now we've got our 2 SPIs hooked up. This roadway is still connected, even though we've sort of broken the usage of this roundabout right here. We'll fix that later. We've got to clean up this mess. But what we haven't done is the big thing. We don't have it connected to the highway system. It's just there. And we do need to correct that. But not only do we need to correct this, we also need to pay attention to lane mathematics. And if you were told that there would be no math, you got lied to. Here's how lane mathematics work in simple terms. You see right here, from my mouse pointer up, we've got a westbound road that is merging. We've got 2 westbound lanes here, 1 westbound lane here, and they're all merging together. 2 plus 1 is 3, so a 2-lane road, a 1-lane road suddenly becomes a 3-lane road. And then when this 3-lane road branches off to have the far right lane spin off heading northbound, it drops back down to 2 road, and then when the southbound lane comes back, it connects up to 3 road. But that's when the game designers got weird, and they just said, well, hey, we only need a 3-lane road to a small point, let's just leave it, force everybody to go into 2-lane, and then they branch it back off into 3-lane 20 feet later. And while they got the concept right, sorta, some of the execution that I would have done is different. Now, full disclosure, they might have done it exactly the way it's supposed to be done in real life. I do drive on highways. I do drive on highways on a regular basis, but I don't drive on cramped city highways. So maybe going from 3 to 2, back to 3, back to 2, back to 3 is the way that it works in places like Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, New York, LA, whatever. For the purposes of this game, it confuses the ever-living crap out of the drivers. And my goal is to keep that from happening. So who's going where is our question. Initially, we know that our, get us facing the right way. Initially, we know that any of our westbound traffic coming in on a north-sided lane was trying to go to south, so it connected up with this overpass right here, which means that we have to take a moment, come over here, get our one lane, and branch it up there. But because we've got these all so close, our angle of approach is ridiculous. I am not getting on a highway merge ramp that is a straight angle of 15% if I have any say in the matter whatsoever. So instead of merging it, putting it all the way down there, we're going to select our continuous road tool, start down here, start increasing our ramp a bit. I'm willing to do 8.5-ish. Not even that. Let's cut our steps down a little bit so we get some more fine-tuned control. So we'll start actually with only a 5% grade, 4%, and we can build up here and bring that a 5% grade. But that did not exactly mesh perfectly with that, so we just delete that extra road segment. And I would love to come up here and try to delete and get this to fit more a little bit better, but I'm afraid if I do, I'm going to run into connection problems and it's going to make it look terrible. What I can do is change where our nodes are by drawing out some breakpoints like we do with our paths. So delete that segment right there to there, and then go back to our continuous line tool and allow that to straighten it up a little bit. And it changes the angle slightly, but it's not ew. And this is another point where I might get a little persnickety and anal about the way that it's shaped up. But the truth is, we've got several of these connections to make, and I want to do more things in the city tonight than fuss with this. We'll get it as close to sane as possible, but my ability to use the role-playing tools is not as spectacular as I wish it was. We'll say it that way. Alright, and over here we're going to do roughly the same thing. We're going to take our single lane, we're going to take our continuous roll tool, but instead of starting at the bottom, we're going to have to start our way at the top. And this is going to be difficult because we particularly meshed this up in a big way down here. So let's hope, first let's get us to the right height that it connects to the right node. Okay, then it did. I'm going to turn off all snapping entirely. Bring this up a little bit. This is gonna be a little difficult. Looks like that I'm going to want to move this slightly, which is gonna, yeah, it's gonna break that curve a good bit. Make that look a little less even. We'll slowly work our way back, though. Okay, kind of corrected that. Go back to snap to geometry. Take off snaps. Put on snap to geometry to snap it to the end to the part we want, but not. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, keeping an eye on our slope, let's get it down to 5.3, right about there. That works for me. If it works for you, keep going. Saying the slope is too steep right there. I agree. Go down to 3.4. Spin this in very carefully, very carefully. We're going to nudge it in right over here. Now, the one thing that I don't like about how this is going to nudge is that if anybody is coming southbound, yeah, southbound off of this, and coming down and they want to go eastbound, they're going to miss a couple of exit ramps. They're not going to be able to go all the way straight through. Not a whole lot I can do about that. So it will add some traffic congestion to this. It's not going to play nice. We're going to have to wait and see how that develops in the future. Okay, but we've got those two legs attached. And that actually looks a lot better than that one does, I'm not going to lie. And we didn't do anything there, we didn't do anything there, we didn't do anything there. So we have reconnected this. Now let's take a look at the lane math, because like I said, I think it sucks. So if you're coming eastbound through here, we'll start at the very beginning. Coming eastbound, you're on a 2-lane, hits 3, out lane goes south. Okay, so far so good, stays at 2. Excuse me. Keeps staying at 2, merges up to 3, so far so good. Then these 2 lanes will merge to go through the center cut. Okay. This 1 lane turns to 2, then turns to 3. And this, while correct, is not as helpful as I would necessarily want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make this split into 2 lanes right here. When I do, of course, it's going to be confusing to the vehicles, so I'll go ahead and increase this whole mess right here up to 4. Now I'm breaking lane math rules. We're going to have to deal. But if I don't do this, I feel like it would create a major headache for drivers and potentially be the source of an accident. Okay, same. What's going on here? In order to keep that from being wonky, we're changing this one to a 2-lane. As it comes up, we'll go ahead and expand that to 3. And then it connects to that weird leg we put in right there that nobody seems to be using. Now, granted, we don't have anything going northbound. This is just going to go to dead air in a second. So this side of things is not really that important. Let's go ahead and replace that 1 way we put up here earlier in our development. Okay, coming back down, looking at our lane math, and right here we have a problem. We've got 3, going to 2, going to 1, going to 4. And that just doesn't math for me. I don't think it maths for any of you. At the very least, we're going to turn that back into 2. We're going to go ahead and turn that into 2 as well. So this, oh, no, we are not. What we're going to do is we're going to make this 2, this 2, this 2, this 2, turn this to 2 all the way up and around. It's going to provide additional lanes and there's a term for it that I'm forgetting. Volume of traffic that we don't need at this time, but there's no sense in not pre-planning a little bit. And in our case, we're not just pre-planning, we're also trying to make sure that we are keeping a good solid aesthetic going on for the city. For example, this, we don't need this to be, we don't have enough volume to justify this turning into 5 lanes right there. But if we don't, it's gonna look bad just leaving it set up that way, and with the way the game calculates nodes, may cause a headache right through here. So we've got that. Same deal on this side. Turn that to 2. I think we're good with this being 1 lane. I'm good with that being 1 lane. So 2 turning into 4, we're fine. Coming up and around. And I really do wish I was better at the road management tools. I'm genuinely not. So while I know the concepts, the execution is not the easiest thing in the world for me. I think, though, that knowing what I know about this intersection, we're going to go ahead and go for broke. Make sure we've got these also split up into 2 lanes each. Turn that into 4. Turn this into 4 where it comes in as best as we can. And all these lane upgrades, it's really changed how this whole segment looks, and that just looks gross. So, okay, this is going to have to grow up into a 5 lane. We'll go ahead and upgrade this into 5 lanes since we are splitting off everywhere. There we go. Minimum of 3 lane coming in here because we're going in multiple different directions all at once. Adjust that, tidy that up just a hair. That just a hair. Converting that node to 2. Converting that node to 4. Gonna let that stay at 2, but gonna convert these to 2. Oh wait, nope, can't do that. Breaks the math. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that 2 lane is going to grow into a 4 lane right there for everybody's benefit. 2 lane to 2 lane. Turn this into a 4 lane. Okay, we're going to see how many drivers we completely freak out by all these decisions later. And there we go. Our highway system has gotten a massive, massive upgrade all the way through here. It took a little bit, and it's going to glitch some. One thing that I didn't do yet that I really need to do is the struggle that we have always in regards to crosswalks. If anybody tries to cross right here, they deserve to get flattened. I said it, I mean it. We're not having crosswalks at the highway junctions. Unfortunately, this means we just killed the walkability for this area. We got a solution for that, but it involves pedestrian paths and bridges, and I'm not doing that right now. We'll advise, make a note of that for future development. Let's get rid of all these crosswalks. And one other thing I want to note, traffic starts to back up on these places really weird and with a great deal of difficulty. Sometimes you can sneak in a small roundabout in the middle of these, and sometimes it helps. Sometimes you can turn these into dumbbell roundabouts by using medium connections on the ends of these, and sometimes that helps. Sometimes you change them from stop signs, or from stop lights to stop signs, and sometimes that helps. Single point interchanges on paper should work perfectly for this game. Reality, it makes the game's driving kind of glitch, but unfortunately it is probably the best interchange that I currently have access to until they do release the asset editor in this game, the actual, not the oh look at my house, it's kind of cool thing, but allow people to create these things in the workshop, upload them and download them. These are the best interchanges I got, and they're better than anything that I can come up with myself. So we've done that. We've got our new highway system in. Let's take a look, see how it fares. Turning up the speed, and now you can see these cars are shifting, they're bouncing, they're driving through, they're making the new connections, and you can see how the SPI works. We'll just come down here and watch for a second. So right now, at the very start, it looks like it's working pretty good. Except we have people walking on the highway, and they should not be doing that. I don't know why they're walking on the highway. I don't know where they're going. And we have jaywalkers walking through here. Where... Okay, sir, madam, where are you going? You are walking the length of the highway doing what? You're planning to walk out of the city? Why? You are moving away on your feet. Wow. You're wealthy, you're educated, and you're walking out of my town. I don't even know where to begin with that. Are all of you doing that? Homeless, moving away. Okay, that makes sense. Moving away, unemployed, adults, homeless. Well, looks like we do actually have a housing crisis. Well, that's a thing to be aware of. Okay, guess that explains all the housing demand. All right, let's work a little on mass transit. When we start with mass transit in this game, you initially get buses and taxis practically straight out of the gate. All the other forms of mass transit have to be unlocked, and taxis are going to come into your city no matter what you do. As long as you have an outside connection, taxis are going to be delivering people in. That's why whenever we put down a new major development, the first thing we see is, holy crap, that's a wall of yellow coming our way. They clog up everything, and it's a bit of a pain. There are some ways around that. We're going to go ahead and get started working on them with the very basics. And that is going to be me looking over here. Okay. And then when we build any of our mass transportation, the very first thing that we're going to be required to put down before we can do anything else are going to be depots, with the exception of air and water. In our case, we're going to need a bus depot to start with. When we do trains, we're going to have to build rail yards. When we do trams, if we do trams, tram depot. Subway will require a subway yard. Buses, thankfully, don't take a whole lot of space for the bus depot. Train rail yards, though, are absolutely huge. They're poorly, they don't mesh in well. I'm not going to say that they're poorly designed, I'm just going to say they don't mesh in well with the city. Bus depots, on the other hand, where do you think you would see a bus station? Out on the edge of town? By an industrial area? Sorry, not a bus station, but a bus depot. You're going to see it somewhere that's away from residential. You're going to see it where it's away from commercial and office. You're going to see it next to other, things like car garages or industrial plants and things of that nature. And as it turns out, we can go ahead, we have that. We've got one of those next to a highway with two different on-ramp locations. It's going to fit in fairly well if we just drop it in right up here. So now we have a bus depot with all those lovely little buses waiting for me to do something with them. And the very first thing we're going to do is look at our electric bus maintenance upgrade, which is not that important, but it's a nice thing to do for the environment. And then we can add an extra garage. That'll give us more buses. And look, here's the truth. We're going to want more buses. More bus. We'll go ahead and just invest in that right now. We can put as many of them down as we can fit inside this blue sphere of influence. So we'll start with one, but we'll consider additional ones later. Now, all told right now, this is going to give us an upgrade of 35 buses that we will be abusing the life out of later. Now, down here for this area that I have been patently ignoring forever is going to be our first major bus station. So let's get that down. Let's take a look at our options. We have a small bus station, which is just a very small terminal, fits in just about anywhere, doesn't take up a lot of space. We have our larger bus station, which can handle a pretty significant amount of traffic, or our local bus station, which takes about the same footprint. Let's see. So let's take a look. So at base, we've got five bus platforms on the local bus station, 6 on the regular bus station, and 3 on the small one. Now, what we're going to do is just go ahead and take our regular bus station. I think that's going to fit our needs just fine. I'm trying to be very picky about how I want this laid up, because this is going to generate significant pedestrian traffic. And if we place it right, we'll be able to come back in the future and add a subway station right next to it as well, just to make this more of a hub than just a single-use building. Of course, these also create noise, so putting them right directly against those residential buildings there on the left would make them a little bit unhappy. The ones that are over there on the right, right next to Hemlock Street, they're going to be unhappy with the noise regardless. So at some point, dead center middle is the best you can do. And I think that's exactly where we're going to drop that. So now we have a bus station, but this needs a little bit of help. First thing we're going to do is give it extra platforms. We can afford it, so 20,000 in. And then an electric bus recharging station for those new electric buses that we, bought at the bus depot. Now, on its own, this is going to do absolutely nothing. There is one more thing that we can invest in, and that would be the taxi stop. And the taxi stop is also important, but we don't have any taxi depots built yet, and we'll get to those momentarily. What's that green line? Was that our long-lost guy who was walking? No, that's somebody else. I must have clicked on a random citizen. Let's clear all that. Still there? Yeah. Whose path is that? I don't know. The game is flagging me that I have a path, that I have a walker. I'm curious, where is this going? It's going to this person who's hiding under a tree. Who are you? Why am I highlighted on you? Oh, she works at the bus station. For whatever reason, the game wanted me to know where she was coming to work from. Okay. Okay, game. Okay, you do you. Alright. The very next thing that we have to do is start establishing bus lines. And bus lines are made in two ways. One, we'll be setting down bus shelters across the city, and then developing points of interest between the two. The other bus line that we can do is going to an out-of-town location. That's going to be the first line that we start with. So, creating a new bus route, starting here, and we're going to zoom out, we're going to rush over, all the way over here to our outside road connection, going to Morton Hampstead. Okay, we click on that to designate that as a direction. Then we come back over here, and in this case, we're just going to go straight back to this point. We want this to be an express route in and out of the city. So now we can have people coming in by bus from Morton Hampstead to our bus depot, where they will be tourists or theoretically even move into our city. And if we have people who don't want to be here any longer, like homeless, they can come here, jump on board, and leave. One more thing we can do about that line to encourage that behavior is to go down to our line tool, which we've got buried over here somewhere. Click clear out of all that. Go over here, go to bus line, select this, go to bus line, and then bring up the line, if it'll let us. I don't want to rename it. Okay, click on the magnifying glass. We'll come over here and we'll delete the ticket price. So it's now a free ticket out of town. It's a solution to life's problems. What can I say? And we can select a vehicle model. In our case, we're going to go ahead and use that electric bus we did earlier. Now, if you come over where we started from with this development, over to our bus depot, we should be able to watch some buses taking off. A few of them may actually start coming back already because they had already been dispatched as soon as that line started. So, eventually, people should be leaving there. Nose itches. Alright. That's bus line 1. Let's continue to relieve some of our congestion by picking out good places for more bus shelters. Ah, there's our buses. Oops. Coming in right now. And they'll be making trips from here outside the city. Okay, that's one down. Let's keep the game sped up. Where should you put your bus shelters? It's a hard question. The concept is you want to have points of interest. You want to have people going from work to school to their homes, vice versa, back and forth. And we want to make that traffic as easy on them as we can. We've got a couple of different tools that'll let us do that. One, we can actually click on one of the road names, like Madison Street here, and it'll tell us where all of the traffic is going. You see all these lines, green for pedestrian, blue for cars. Gives you an idea of where your traffic centers are and where people are going to that are using this particular street, using this particular node. So why don't we go over here and click on our university, make sure we have the pathing tool set up. Where are people coming from that are going to our university? Well, it looks like they're walking from these neighborhoods on down. That takes time, that slows them down, but it's a cheap way of transit. Let's take a look at, say, this building. Where are people coming from? The sky, apparently. They're manifesting out of nowhere and walking up over here. But you can start to get the drift. Typically speaking, of course, where do you think you're going to have vehicles coming from? Where people live, and parking lots. And where do you think you're going to have people going? Where people live, where they shop, where they work. So let's get started with a very brief, relatively small bus network. And the other thing you have to keep in mind when you're developing a bus network, specifically bus networks, is that what side of the road your vehicle's driving on. If you are using a European city and you've got left driving on, then it's going to change the flow of your traffic. Right, American city, right side driving on, it's going to change the flow of your traffic. And the idea is to keep your traffic flow as rational as possible and to decrease the number of unnecessary turns that vehicles are going to have to take. Same token, you also don't want people to have to walk through any more intersections than they absolutely have to walk to. So we're starting our route effectively here. So let's follow our lane on the right. Where is it going to take us? Let's go ahead and go from university to college. Come back down. I would assume that our next stop would probably be the bus station. Then we'll go ahead and swing up into one of these lighter residential districts there. Then we'll go up to these apartment complexes over here. We'll come down. We'll stop over in front of this high school complex. Make sure that we're keeping our minds on the road areas. Then we're going to slip in behind all of these dense commercial, allowing our people to get off the bus here and then walk down and then be around without having to cross the street. Then I'm going to take a good solid look over here. Let's set it again right over here behind this medical complex so they can get out and they can walk to the doctor's office if they need to. We'll stop them back in at the bus depot. I'm going to go ahead and set a currently unnecessary bus stop right here. And that's going to be it. Now, let's program our route. Go to the bus line tool. Create a new route starting here. And we follow the path that we told ourselves we were going to use earlier. The game will automatically map out the best theoretical way to get from point A to point B. So they go there, then they'll come over. We're going to drop them at this platform there, so they would come up, bus will hit that roundabout, come down. All right, they're there, and then I said our next stop is going to be a minor residential location there, followed by this residential location there, followed by this high school, followed by that small commercial district, followed by that doctor's office, followed by the same platform we had them check in at initially, come down for this currently unnecessary bus station there, bus stop, and then back over here in front of the university. That completes the route, and done. If you were of the mind to, you would then do a route that goes in the reverse direction with bus stops on the exact opposite part of the streets. I am of a mind to, I'm just not in the mood to. Maybe later. Okay, we're gonna hope that fire is on their way up there. Is fire there? Do we have fire departments doing stuff over here? We do. There we go. Alright. They're gonna do their best to put out those fires, and hopefully nothing's gonna blow up on us. Okie dokie. So that's how we are starting with our mass transit. We now have 2 bus lines, one that's going out of town for free, and one that makes a trip around some of the local education buildings. So far, so good. The next thing I want to do is, much like we just did with bus, is to go ahead and look for a taxi depot. There are 2 variants of this, one that spawns 8 vehicles, one that spawns 25. You do already have taxis in your city. They are being hailed from out of town. You don't get money from them, and they clog up traffic. If you put your own taxi depot down, you can invest in electric taxis, and it will theoretically get rid of some of your out-of-town taxi traffic coming in. Again, same deal. We can put it up over here next to our industrial stuff, and it won't look... I don't think it would look out of place. So just for kicks, we'll go ahead, set it in up there. We're going to go ahead and use the larger one for right now. There's no sense in keeping this to a minimum. Then, one thing that we are going to do that makes a tremendous difference is we're going to go ahead and right away invest in the dispatch center. So instead of being required to put down taxi stands like we just did for the bus routes, now somebody can just call the taxi company and have it done. We're going to go ahead and invest in electric, and just for good measure, we'll go ahead and build a couple of extra garages because they are relatively cheap. Oh, we just leveled. I hit the exit button too fast to see what we got, but we do have a new signature building unlocked thanks to all that effort. Let's take a quick look though, and hey look, we're still good on cash flow, so I'm happy. But we built a taxi depot. Let's come back to our bus station super quick and plug in the taxi stop as well, just to give it an upgrade and to cut down a little bit on some of the spinny traffic. One thing that we could have done, and probably should have, would be to back this up a little bit and run a dedicated road to it so it's off of our 6-lane artery right here. Because traffic is going to get slowed down as buses come in, as people walk into it. And in all honesty, that is a good enough idea that I'm going to look and see how much it's going to cost to move. Now, in theory, this should move the lines with it. So it's not going to cost a ton, it's only going to cost 60,000. Let me save super fast. Let me pause. We're going to have to move this twice, unfortunately. Once to... Well, no, we just have to move it once. We just have to be careful. We're going to move it. We're going to turn off snapping, because I want to make sure that it's still facing the right way. And you can see the game's like, you broke all the connections. Yes, game, I know, it's okay. We'll fix you. We'll fix you. Alright, get back to our roadway. Oops, make sure we're using the right tool. We want the straight line tool in this case. Come over. Come down, and the nodes automatically corrected themselves. At least they should. Gonna be panicked a little bit, and all those little people are just running off of the now open field. We did make a minor mistake right here, though. Let's clean up that. And there's not a whole lot we can do about Beach Street. The reason why we put it in was so that people could come up to this connection right here. And, yeah. But you can see what happens when you move a building. All the people that were in it are like, dude, what the F? And so they're all walking back over to the bus station. But this is how you know that the bus station is working, because if you look, well, before we moved it, there were 92 passengers waiting. And that means that the line is getting use and that cars are going off the road. And of course, now we've actually got a pretty decent open space right here that anything could fit in. Let's take a peek at our signature buildings, see if we have something here that would look nice. We do have a residential complex that we could install that would fit, not here, so close. How much am I off? A weird amount. What in the world? We can't get that to fit. So we could put it in an apartment building right there. And it looks like it's just a straight apartment building. We could do UK city apartments. That's not really going to fit. We have this interesting dual use, mixed use building. That's awfully small. It would fit, but let's not. We've got this cafe, and got this flatter cafe. We've got assorted German-style buildings that really aren't going to fit in so well in this section, I don't think. Skip the gas station, and then we've also have an office complex that might fit. But you know what? I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab this apartment complex. Since we just set down a massive mass transit hub, it makes perfect sense to me to have a pretty big residential plaza at the same exact location. And I think that looks kind of cool. Plus, it's going to hide how ugly that building looks in the background. Okay, there is one more mass transit building that I would like to build over here, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get away with it with the way some of our other zoning is without destroying everything. And honestly, now that we've put that apartment building there, that's kind of going to rule it out. My hope was that we could build one of these small train stations, or one of the more important ones right here, but I think that's going to have to be something that's going to come over here down in this area. But it's all good. We're good. We're happy. We're going to make everything great. Initially. Not again. We're going to make everything great initially. We'll do it right the first time. How's that? Okay. What do we unlock, though? We finally now have our high-density offices. We also have our French office buildings, too. These look really cool. I'm going to go ahead and sneak one in. They don't grow very big, so they look more like what I would assume a medium-density office building would be, rather than a high-density. But let me slot it in right there, even though that's not what I had intended for that cube, but just to give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like when it zones on the right side correctly. Come on, don't do this to me. Always got to be the French. And it's going to be weird on the zoning. Something's glitching. Something weird. Huh. Why are you doing that? Well, we'll try right here then. Still just tiny zones, huh? Huh. Alright, game gonna do game things. Back over here in this section, let's fill it in with a little bit of commercial. Okay, and then we can still use this for what I planned with it earlier. And it looks like that back spot isn't going to get used for anything, so what kind of park can we put over here? Passage? No. Small? No. Small plaza? Definitely no. Oh, square mini fits. Tiny city fits. 2 tiny city parks back to back. There we go. Okay. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing to put a giant parking lot over here, though. I hate to say it, but that's America for you. Because we've got all these people coming in on buses, maybe a large parking lot would go a long way. But that's a maybe, and it's not something I'm going to worry about right this second. Okay, so where are we in our city development? What can we do next? Well, we've got our education. We've got the start of our mass transit system. We do have farmland producing stuff and production going on. And we fixed our highway problem that I wanted to jump on. It is now 7 o'clock, and I want to be able to get some food sooner rather than later this evening. But we're not as done as I would like to be. I'm just trying to figure out what I would like to be done with next. And I think that we're going to go ahead and start zoning some of our high-density office and some of our high-density residential. I was really hoping to put the train line down first, though, because I want to be able to build around that in a way that's not going to be sticking out like a massive sore thumb. And the longer I look at it, the more I think that's going to be our best deal. But we get back into the situation where I absolutely hate how our rail yards look. There is no good place for these that I have seen in any city development I've done. We don't want to put it up here in the middle of all of this industrial just because it takes up so much space. Because I'm going to go ahead and highlight for you really quick. Look how much space this thing takes up. First, we don't have a rail connection that comes up through here yet. We're going to, but not yet. Our best places for this, I don't think it would be abnormal to see a whole lot of train yard stuff going around near a massive power plant. I don't think that would look out of the ordinary by any stretch. It of course does fit in sorta with this industrial, but it won't fit with where we have our highway system unless we sneak it in over here. And if we sneak it in over here, all of that highway stuff is going to have to be moved, reimagined, and redone to make room for the rail lines. We can do that, but then look what's immediately to the right of it. Industrial plants. We don't have enough room to make a turn right there. We could move that recycling center and that water treatment plant and drop it right there, but that just feels like way too much work. We could go ahead and just buy some extra tiles, a bunch of them, and slide this in up here. And then when we do our highway, we'll just run it over top of the rail. It won't be that big of a problem. And then we could just drop it down here, but down here's where I plan on having a major city center. And plus we've also got a highway line that's going to be coming down through here, and that's just not going to be conductive to city growth by any stretch. And I do, while it would look, for my area, while it would feel normal to have it over here next to a river, I don't want to eat up river space with that. Let me think on this one for a moment. While I do, let me come over here, and when we had looked around for a spot for a college, we found a good spot for our cemetery. So let me take a look. While we don't need it, this is going to be more for design than it is for anything else. We'll see about going to go ahead and install it while I think about a good place for our other stuff. Now, cemeteries do have a lot of stuff that goes into the back end of them. So but we also need to make sure that we have plenty of room for a roadway. I think that's going to line up just nice. 4-lane road. It fits, but barely. But hey, it is close enough. Connect our road. Now let's take a quick look at what upgrades are available for a cemetery, and here we have a temple with 2+ well-being and 300 meters. Then we have the columbarium, which I know I've said wrong, which also attaches to this, and it is a place to store the cremated remains of the deceased. I'm presuming they're on everybody's mantle right now. And then our mausoleum, which also attaches directly to this building, and this becomes a tourist attraction. Make of that what you will. But it'll boost our city's overall attractiveness. And because all of these basically have to attach to this building and the immediate roadway, we don't have a lot of room to maneuver over here. So we're going to stick one of these right here. When we buy this tile, we'll stick another one over here as well, just purely for looks. Then I do believe in religion of a particular form myself, so let me slip in a let's see, one temple or two. We're not limited on the number we can build as long as we build them around the general area. So theoretically I could stick this temple all the way down over here if I wanted to, since it's within that sphere of influence. And I think if I can get away with that. Okay, let's first look, see what faces. So there's a fountain in front. I know that's my point of contact. I'm going to run a road before I do anything. Right up to roughly, now let's get our 90 degrees set. Distance too long, it's outside the SOI, but I think if we set it right there, delete the road, get the road, are we lined at 90? Yes. We'll probably come back and landscape around for that bridge later. In fact, we're going to have to. In fact, let me do that now, because looking at that makes my head hurt. Okay. Slope tool, right click on top, left click on bottom, bring up the slope. A little further than I meant, but that's okay. Let's correct that road node to make it line up a little better now that we've adjusted the land. Okay, the building stretched out slightly to meet our interest. There we go. Let's come down here to our pathway tool. If I set a path right here, will it connect to this in a positive way? That's one of those that's going to, it wants to, but it thinks it's doing something bad. Been there, homie, been there. When you want to connect, but you can't ethically justify it. Been there. Been there. So we'll at least have the visual of it being right up next, even if it's not going to let me go straight to it. And then we'll scoot this pathway in and right behind that temple, even though it's going to be a little elevated, and have a retaining wall, unless it completely screws up the geometry of this build. What do you think, guys? Is that as ugly as it looks? Yes, it absolutely is. We're going to delete all that. And there we go. But I can go ahead and drag this path all the way down here. Okay, so as one would expect, the cemetery is, of course, going to operate as a base for hearses. So this too will meet some of our death care demand. And it's now also going to meet our entertainment demand, which is another good thing. I'm trying to get this to snap to a side of the building. Why are you doing this? Like, it's telling you can connect. Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay. Alright, so we now have this very lovely temple, overlooking the cemetery, overlooking a forest fire, overlooking a forest fire, overlooking our timber production on fire. That's cool. Nothing bad can happen there. Okay. Alright. Somebody will pick up my eyeballs off the floor. That would be appreciated. And I'm not going to develop anything else over here on this side right now. I'm certainly not going to buy a tile just to put down an additional one of these. So this was just something that I've wanted to do, and it's made me kind of sad that we haven't had one yet in the building. Oh, we do also want to connect this roundabout up. So that's 2 lanes. And we'll make that a roundabout right there. Okay, so far, so good. We be in business, guys. Okay, well, we've resolved that. I've got 20 minutes to go on my stream tonight. I don't think there's anybody else in chat other than myself and Rio, or I'd ask if you guys had anything you wanted me to build. But, Rio, you got anything you want me to build? I'll wait a second to see if you answer, see if you've snuck off AFK while I hiccup in your ear. And while I do, I'm going to quietly remove notifications off of my phone. Things that I absolutely don't care about. Okay, my assumption is that she has snuck AFK. So you're just stuck with me and my bright ideas. Cool. Alright. Let's purchase this tile. Let's take a gander over here at this road mess that I made earlier in this stream. 6-lane road. Fixing our 2-lane mini disaster down here. Okay, getting that to line up. We're still not going to tolerate this rail intersection for long, just so you guys know. Okay. Now then, we are going to need to extend our highway system down here and get that looking nice. And that's probably going to be the easiest thing we can do, and then we can build our train system around it. So I know that I want the highway to come down and to sort of follow this hillside a little bit. So we're going to be looking at another single point interchange, and realistically, let's see, what are my real options here? If I keep it aligned on that center line, that would be okay. It would be great to have it lined up with this over here, but I don't see how that would be viable. Unless I actually, instead of a SPI, we did something like a roundabout interchange, but that, I mean, it's not going to feel like a bit much later. It just feels like a bit much right now. On the other hand, we are planning on making this I am planning on making this a big section that we're going to have people coming in north off of our main 8-lane road, and probably also coming in down around the highway from. So it wouldn't be atypical, I think, to have a cloverleaf intersection somewhere down around in here, where that would be popping on and connecting, even if we just go from 8-lane to highway, much like we had over here. But the difference is this isn't going to be handling incoming city traffic. This is just going to be handling internal city traffic. Yeah, I think that's going to do us. And now that we're making profit, not hand over fist, but substantial, I feel a little bit more comfortable about expanding with buying what are otherwise unnecessary tiles. So picking up these tiles and that tile, while it may be of minor assistance, it's still some pretty solid assistance. Should we be saving that money up for things like a fire station with a helicopter depot on it? Yes, we should. But we're going to have some explosive growth once I get done with this layout and build up. And that's really going to make a tremendous difference for us and how we see the game. So let's get an idea for roughly how far down we want to go. That doesn't have to be lined up straight to make it our use, but it's gonna be more straight than not, I think. That's okay. Our highway system will curve a little bit around it. And if I don't have to delete any rail line right there to make this fit, even better. What is it not connecting with? There we go. And we'll live with that. Let's come over here. If I delete this section of roadway, it's not going to screw up the city. Okie dokie. So those are 2 lanes, but we're going to upgrade them to 3 lanes like we did earlier. But we are going to turn our snapping back on for this part. Okay, snap together. We're good. Going to go for our dual lane tool to make sure that we're getting these lined up the way we're supposed to. Looks like those are together at a 0.5 meter connection. Okay, that's fine. So let's get all of our snapping on. Okay, right there is going to be good. Of course, now you see the obvious problem. And the obvious solution is to destroy everything on our path. We are using our continuous lane tool. Oh, we're somehow, for whatever reason, up at a height of 2.5. Didn't notice that. Do we need to go back and delete all this? No, it's not making a difference. Okay, Flatlandia it is. Oh, small difference. Alright. There we go. Okay, then we're going to switch this down to 2-lane right here so it can connect up. We just do that inside the menu. Oh, we are golden. We take off twin lanes, we go to single. We merge just in there, just nice and fine, and look at that. We now have a relatively useless highway connection. Let's finish it up. Highway connected. Highway connected. Now, this is going to be a little problematic because it is up in the air and this lane is not. So we're going to just run that down a good bit. Run that up a good bit. And then make sure we exit out. And then last but not least, we're going to come over here. And do you see how this lane is going to allow people to turn left here onto that at that intersection? How about we don't? Then we're going to get rid of our crosswalks. We're going to replace stop sign with, or stoplight with stop sign. And I think we're going to go ahead and upgrade this leg of it to 4, where it connects up to right there, and then go ahead and increase this split to 2. We'll do the same thing on the other side, just to keep our lane mathematics straight. Now, the downside of converting this into a highway section right here is that it's going to prohibit any zoning coming off of this particular plot. Now, that does limit us with some of our ability to grow right through here. However, at the same time, that's like, well, hey, if you can't zone here, if you can't get your grid, if you can't get your blocks, then what can you do? And, well, train depot seems like it may be a viable option in this particular interchange. But as a perk now, people come into the city, they can go in, they can hit this SPI up here, come down, hit this cloverleaf, go wherever. They'll be able to stay on the highway, go east, go across the river while being on a highway setup. They'll be able to come in from our eventual harbor districts, come up, come north, go east, go west, go south, go wherever, and everything's going to be good. And here is our traffic congestion that I was telling you guys about. All this traffic coming through, it's stuck at a stoplight, which creates a headache for everybody. Eventually, though, stoplights do change, and this traffic will be able to come through. So, is it worth it? Is it the right decision to make? I don't know. It is a traffic solution. It's one of the best solutions we got. What I will do is put a medium roundabout right there and hope that it speeds up the rate that these cars were able to move through. We're just going to have to wait and see. And for the moment, this seems to clear up the congestion. We'll see if that becomes a permanent solution or not. I'll go ahead and preemptively do the same thing over here, now that you guys have had a chance to see what I meant by all of that. Alright, 721. I am not going to... excuse me. I'm going to cough in your ear. I am not going to set up the train depot right now. That is going to be a big project, just to get it to look right. We're going to have to delete some roads, run some overpasses. Oh, and speaking of roads, I forgot about this. We have to fix this. 2 ways we can fix this, either under or over. In this case, I think we're going to be just as well off if we go under a little bit. So, with a mod called Move It, you are able to select segments and lower them or raise them. In the vanilla game, you can't do that. Talk to Paradox. Let's come over, get what we need, go for 2. Then we're going to page down about 7 meters. I think a degree slope of 7.4 is reasonable. Somehow I've lost being lined up directly. Looks like I screwed up somewhere right there. Looks like I screwed up right there. Get back up to 0 so it fits. Get it back to 180. Drop down to 7.5 meters. A slope of negative 7.6. Drag forward. Raise up. Slope of positive 5%. And now that we've made that divot in the ground, over to our large roads, or 6 lanes, select, and of course it's not going to do what I need it to do. So let's go ahead and give this a brief elevation 2 of, is 2.5 enough? No, of course not. If we were coming straight at this at a 90-degree angle, it would be fine. But of course we're not, because I make my life complicated. Alright, well, you know what? If we can't go under conveniently, safely, and without a headache, we're going to go over. So let's re-drag out our 6 lane, our other 6 lane. Then we're going to see, I believe it's 7.5. do a little lane deletion just to get everything to mesh up. Okay, puts a small little weird curve right there, a little bobble. But I think our people will live. Okay, done. We have an odd little overpass here with a strange little slope. That'll look a little bit better once I put our concrete barriers up on it. We can't put concrete barriers up on stuff that's overhead, don't ask me why. And there's no need for this bobble. We can just go ahead and correct it straight up. Oops, double click, didn't need to. Okay, there we go. Alright, and that reconnects that roadway much better. We still have that rail intersection right there that we have to fix, but we don't have to fix it until after we start running rail. So let's take a really good hard look as to where we want to put our rail depot before I log off for the night. Because it's Friday Night SmackDown, and honestly, I'm hungry. The way that rail depots work, they work much like a bus depot. Rail stations. No, trains will spawn here, and they will go out to your rail routes, whether it's intracity or extracity. And that's really about all there is to it. I mean, it's conceptually, it's not hard. It's a very large, unyieldy structure that requires far more additional space on the sides to meet up to your rail network than really what feels appropriate for the game. And it's just gonna eat up a ton of space. But there's no two ways around it. I think if I put this here, I'll go ahead and have to buy up this extra tile. But if I set it here, I can get a service road to it so that the building can actually function. And I'm going to go ahead and run that service road right now, right along the width of our highway. Make sure that we don't overlap onto the highway. We don't need anything on the other side of it. There's no way that we can... No, there's no way. Like, I feel like there should be a way, but there's not going to be any valid way. Bummer. Okay, but still we can take this... We can do our usual pathway trick to preserve zoning right away if we want to. A very tiny split node right there so we can want that at 45. Okay, we've got our service access road built over here. Later we'll come back and we'll raise these back up again so we can run additional connection roads on this side. And my game just froze up. How rude. Okay, at least my stream didn't die. What just happened? Well, guys, the game is completely crashed, and it's showing how the game looked before we started, which absolutely terrifies me. So I'm going to call the stream over right now on my end. I don't know what it's doing on yours. So thank you for tuning in. I'm going to uncrash this, and then I will restart it to see what I have to redo before our next stream. Thank you all very much. I know this was a longer one, but we got a lot of stuff set up. I hope you had a wonderful time. I know I did. Please be sure to tune in next time. I know I've done nothing but Cities Skylines 2 this week, so I'll try to do something different this weekend. Thank you all very much. You guys have a wonderful night, and I'll see you soon. Oh, everything's crashed. Crap. Task Manager it is. Oh, everything is crashed on my end. What the hell? I can't even log out. Well, have a good night, guys. I'm glad it's not showing you on my end what it's on your end what it's showing me on my end, because this is just crazy. Task Manager, please? No? Nothing? Can I get to Steam? Can I get... What in the 7? Yeah, restarting. Good night, everybody. Okay, that did it.